Well, greetings everybody and welcome to this week's Inworld Review. The show where we like to bring you a bit of chat and conversation about the hypergrid and sometimes other social virtual worlds. Today is the 14th of January of, yes, I've remembered, the year is... No, it's not 2018. The new year is finally with us. And I did remember. I was just pretending I didn't. And yes, we're here for the count, so to speak. I'm Mal Burns. Joining me, he's also multitasking on our camera systems. My usual partner here, James Outloud. Welcome, James.
Oh, thank you, Mal. Glad I can be here to help out.
Yep, and a Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you, too.
That was our last Inworld Review was New Year's Eve, remember?
Oh, true,
which is, we didn't do one last week. So, yes, Happy New Year. And a Happy New Year to my guests, too, but I will introduce them first. Both of them are heavily involved in art, should I say, in no certain terms, given the name of one of them. My first guest here is Art Blue. Welcome, Art.
Thank you, Mal.
Art is a well-known name in terms of exhibits and performances even on the hypergrid, but he's also been present for a long while in Second Life and things like that, so we'll be talking a bit more about that. And Art is currently working with, and I love this lady's surname, avatar name anyway, Juliette Surrealdreaming. What a wonderful name. Hi, Juliette.
Hi, Mel. Thank you. Hi, James and Art.
and welcome. Yeah. And both of you are very colourful characters too, so I'm sure it's a treat for our cameraman here to have you on screen.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess you guys know the show from the past. We just generally talk about general things, you know, what's going on. Obviously, our focus this week is going to be a bit on art. Art, you the person, and art generically too, Art. Oh, they're going to be great fun, this, isn't it? I'd like to start off by just getting a kind of introduction to both of you. I mean, I'm aware of you both in Second Life and out here on the hypergrid, Art. Are you active on any other platforms as well? Are you in High Fidelity or Science Space or any of the other sort of social worlds we cover?
I'm in Sansa and in High Fidelity, and in a lot of open grids. So we have based off open simulator technology, wide distribution of our message, and we try to be in touch with new platforms as well. And Juliette, but she will tell by herself, is also there.
Exactly. How about you, Juliette? Are you? I know you from here, of course, and your current name as well. But have you been? You active in Second Life or other platforms as well?
Yes, in Second Life, I'm also Juliette. Well, I'm Juliette everywhere, but I have an art gallery in Second Life, and I assist art with different projects there, and also via grants, and then here and High Fidelity. I'm in High Fidelity also, and Sansar, I'll admit I've only logged into it 1 or 2 times, mostly Metro, and I have a Franco grid also. That's it.
Okay. Right. I think if you could actually get your mouth a bit closer to your microphone, I'm sort of picking up the sort of the spatial sound from you. But
okay. I'm in space right now.
Yeah. Science space. Yeah. I actually tried to get to this Intel thing in Sansa, I think it was yesterday, and you know I was just getting nowhere despite having a phenomenally powerful machine to do it. But you know, I quite often pop in at High Fidelity. And are either of you familiar with Science Space?
No.
No, science-based is really, to me, what Samsara should be. Experiences, but people building in Unity, and then they import it into the science-based platform. And it behaves and looks a bit like Samsara, but lovely lighting. And incidentally, it's Samsara's CEO is none other than Adam Frisby, who is the one, of course, who created, one of the people, of course, who was one of the founders of OpenSim. So it's a close-knit world. Anyway, let's get back to current affairs. Sadly, which is very unusual for me, 2 weeks ago I actually missed a Hypergrid Safari, so I actually missed a visit to your latest, I guess we'll call it an installation, called Sand. Maybe you'd like to now I know you're going to do another performance of this tomorrow, so we're going to be promoting that, but maybe tell us what it's about, since that's the current thing, so to speak. And I also have a couple of slides up on the screen here, actually showing the stage of Sand. So maybe you'd like to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, if I will answer this question, so Juliette can go to the next one on February. Tomorrow we will have a repetition of a performance that is based on my book. That book, the title is Not Sand, Not Sound, and the book happens inside a virtual world based on Second Life, on Open Simulator, on other platforms, as you can imagine. It's written in the year 2049, and it was brought back to our time by a time traveler. So the traveler name is Traveler 3326, which links to the Netflix series Traveler. There he is a historian. So we learn from the future in the present. And that is a reading in this performance. The performance is done by Venus Adored, so a particle performance. And based on the story in the book or the chapter selected, I'm reading and Juliette is reading, the performance happens. So it's in slices, put in slices, like a theatrical performance in acts. And each act has a reading and has a part of the performance which Venus Adored makes in the sand, because the elements we took out for this show is in the desert, in the Libyan desert, to be precise.
Right.
And there is a background that all my stories have. They are based on true facts. That means not on alternate facts or alternative facts or fake facts, on true facts. And it is the discovery of the great Libyan sand glass, which is dotted with iridium particles, and it's a few million years old. And Larry Page, for example, has such a precise piece of the great Libyan sand glass. And my idea is that in the sand glass is an information, so that iridium dots are not just stochastic or randomly set. No, there is a message, there's a code behind. And this code to decipher is, of course, a big thing. So we need busy beavers in the sand to decipher this. And you may know busy beaver is a theorem from artificial intelligence, from the halting theorem, from the Turing test, and all these elements in informatics are mixed together to a book story. So facts of science, facts of history, and the future that I predict come back to the past, and Venus Adored makes a particle shows in it, and Juliette gives a lovely voice for reading a part. So that's in, let's say, in short, a few words about what will happen tomorrow and the backgrounds.
That sounds awfully complicated. I love the concept of that. Yes, and the science behind it all. Yeah, I didn't realise that. You know, I sort of saw the pictures, and of course I wasn't there. So you know, I was looking at the aesthetic actually, so that you've implied a lot of meaning behind that. So you're Juliette, you're the kind of narrator when you're reading this, are you? So you're sort of standing, sitting there, and telling us the story while the particles happen.
Yes, I play one of the characters on stage, and I read a section of the novel for art, so it's linked into the performance. But mostly I stand there and look pretty. That's it.
I've just switched our screen to another slide, which is pretty much the same stage, but with a side view. So we've got, a little bit more of the... what do I call them? Sculptures, I guess, in the front of the stage. Is Art saying he can't? Oh, we have lost Art again temporarily. Okay, hopefully he will rejoin us on the audio channel shortly. He says something about not hearing. Okay, I'm going to have to leave this with you, Juliette, for the moment. I'm going to move to a slide that Art quite literally just handed me before the show, and maybe you'd like to tell us about this. It's the biennial thing, cubes.2res.com. Oh, Chica Ghost, like her stuff. And tell us a bit about this. Tell us about this event.
This is a really exciting project. Oh, I'm sorry, James.
No, I would just want to say I'm back. I lost voice, so I don't know what was told in the last 2 minutes.
No, that's okay. I switched to Julius, and I've just put your latest slide up. So yeah, that's okay.
I was just getting ready to share about the One Biennale project for 2018, and that will include pavilions and artist cubes. It's a really wonderful concept that Art came up with. So it's a collaborative effort between creative builders who are building these pavilions based on a template. So all the builders have guidelines that they all have to work within. And then inside of the pavilions is placed an artist cube, and again, the artists also have guidelines that they have to work within. So it's really some beautiful work is coming about. I don't know, Art, is it okay if I share some of the artists and creators who are involved?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I the first one I see there is Kiko or Chica Ghost, and I don't think I've ever come across her in OpenSim.
No, this was a first, and it's really, well, she's in, I think she's at High Fidelity. I think she has a region in High Fidelity, and it's pretty fabulous if you've not been in there yet. But she, I think OpenSims, this is her first, and so it was really exciting. And Bryn O was the one who got Chica to come in. I asked her, and she said, no. And then, Bryn O did her magic, and Chica came in. And so we're really excited about that. And then we also have Ulan Sarah Patrix, and he just does wonderful nature sculpting and meshes. So he's a treat. Barry Richards is a new artist in Second Life who we brought into OpenSims. You may know Exie Atreides, Excess Lemon in Second Life, and she's come forward also. Betty Turod And we have artists, we have other works in progress right now. Art Emes and Hyde Hackle, Norton Like, and Venus Adored Pie are all working on their pavilions. And then now we're in the phase of the artist cubes, and we've got some fabulous, oh my God, Ganid has done an Escher style artist cube inside, which will be premiered on the February 7th, HG Safari. And we also have Jim Priez, who's the great fractal artist, Molly Bloom, who's just an incredible artist. She's the queen of art in SL as far as I'm concerned. And Moira Winkler. We have a new artist coming in named Secondhand Tutti, and a few others. I mean, we're in the process of collecting the art cubes now, and we hope to have about 20 artist cubes. So we'll see what happens. It's exciting. It's all part of Art's conservation of 3D art in virtual worlds. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Now, for our viewers as well, they can probably see it if we've got the picture up. But I noticed that there's a website at the top with a call for cubes. Cubes.2res.com. Maybe Art, tell it. Is this somewhere people can go to submit works for this?
The website cubes.reds.com, as you see on the slide, links to a video, and it links to the video that was recorded at the Open Simulator conference in December, where I presented the first of the one Biennale, and it's about 20 minutes where all the history is outlined. So if you have time, 20 minutes, then that's the best link you can get about the project. Because it shows the importance of conservation of 3D immersive art. I am very long in computer graphics and art, so I know about the difficulties to keep code alive. That begins in the late 70s, where we had plotters, where we made the first computer drawings on paper.
Yes. I remember Snoopy. A friend of mine gave me a dot matrix printout of Snoopy that was the size of a wall.
I speak of drawings that have been exhibited in museums and printed in books of art. And if you look at these old printings and you think about how was the code, how was it coded, what's behind, you don't get it by looking at it. And the same will be when you look in 50 years or in 20 years to 3D art. And when you try to recode it just from looking at it, just from having a photo or from having a video, Machimina, you will not get it, because the interactive components are just in the code, and a lot is just in the code. So the only way to keep the knowledge of the beginning digital Anthropocene, that's a term I think that's very fitting. The Anthropocene is a catchword that means that the human race has now taken over nature, that the impact of the human race on the earth define how the earth is going on, how the next changes will happen. And so the word Anthropocene came up starting in 1950 about this day. And now we have another age. It's a digital Anthropocene. I think that will be as big the impact if the digitalization goes on. And so the art will also follow this, of course, and will go ahead even, will be a pioneer. And so the pioneers of digital art to conserve to the future is one of my core targets. And that means we have to conserve Open Simulator. That's the only way what we can conserve. We cannot conserve Second Life, for example, but we can do it in OpenSim. And we can froze the viewer, and we can froze the code, and we can have virtual machines that are able to keep the code alive even in 50 years, because simulators, virtual machine will always exist for Windows or for Unix or for Linux. And so that's the idea behind to have pavilions where other artists can put a cube inside. And the cube is very small, just about 30 meters in dimension. So it is not such a big deal to make a nice installation in such a space and to keep it alive. So it's not a matter of all my art has to go to OpenSim. Oh, that's such a workload. All these questions, how much you have to do and how much to have to suffer as an artist to remake everything you have, for example, in Second Life or in other realms, it's not so big. So you can do it with, let's say, a few days or 100 hours or 50 hours only. It depends how big you want to be represented, and if you just import a link set, it can be done in a few hours, just 2 or 3 hours. So it's possible, and we see it on the results that Artists are different, of course, and some do a tremendous job. And what Juliette mentioned is at February 7, the work of Gayanet resident, or Gayanet Lindman, his old name, a Swiss artist, is a castle that he put upside down like an Escher, and we'll have a party there. But that's a part of Juliette I would like to give over.
Okay. Just before we do, and make sure I do, you know, on this show we've discussed, you know, we discuss all sorts of things, and one of the things I've really made a point of over the last few months or a year even is, you know, the idea that, you know, creators, you know, our best way, you know, if you deploy offline, as I call it, create offline, it may be you've got your own simulator running on your desktop and you create there, and then you literally export copies to the different platforms you want it on. So unlike an artist who's worked in Second Life and can't get the darn thing out, they've got to come here and rebuild it or something. If you deploy offline in the first place, you finish the work to your satisfaction, and then you package it up and you send it to to Second Life, and you know it will be in Second Life, but you know the original will be yours that you can deploy to high fidelity, maybe science space, somewhere on the hypergrid too. And I've certainly loved, you know, we talk about the you know, how maybe OpenSim as a code base is a bit behind, you know, modern platforms and things, but we've also pointed out that when it comes to collaboration and things like that, and being able to do stuff in real time in the environment you're in, there is really no competition yet. And this idea, we went on safari a few weeks ago, and I remember going to somewhere where Betty was there, in fact, Betty Trudeau, and I forget the exact place it was, but the whole region on the hypergrid was devoted to archiving, you know, different works of art. And Che Manga, for example, had an exhibition where she literally took all her old stuff and put it together in an archive, and you know, let people take bits of it and things like that. You know, some people say the changing nature of an interactive virtual world means it's obviously changing and there's no permanence. But alongside that, of course, I think there is that permanence there. I mean, for example, if you have, you know, 50 regions that are all archives of wonderful art from over the ages, you know, maybe that grid with all those archives on it may not be online that often, but the thing is it's always there and can be brought up. So that code, as it were, will hopefully, you know, that comprises that art, will hopefully be there, available in 50 years' time, even if it's something you don't walk into every day, if you see what I mean. So I'm very keen on this idea of, you know, I'm a bit of a collector at heart, you know, I'm surrounded by collections of things. So, you know, the idea of that, you know, recording the stuff and having it available permanently, if not, you know, even if it requires a bit of work getting it up, really appeals to me. But let me, unless you have any thoughts on that, I'll move back to Juliette. And Art was going to hand over to you, wasn't he, about the February 7th? Yeah.
He was, and we're really excited about being able to show off one of the pavilions and one of the artist cubes at the HG Safari on February 7th, and we're doing it an art talk. You know, one of Art Blue's famous art talks, and then it will lead into a formal ball, a grand ball inside of the pavilion and artist cubes. So,
good. You mean we're going to have a grand ball in an?
We're going to have a grand, yes,
in an Escher landscape.
Yes.
So, you know, I'll be talking upside down to somebody who's yeah. Sorry.
You're not going to know what way you are. So So it's exciting for us, and we will have a king and a queen and court of the ball. So we're going to have some fun with it, you know, and make it, you know, tie in and make it a little bit of a community event also, because that's what seems to be also happening more and more on the HG Safari is a greater sense of community forming in OpenSims. So we're hoping to kind of be multi-dimensional with that particular Safari at our event. Yeah.
Can I ask a technical question about this one, the Grand Fall, the Escher thing? I went to something a long while ago, and it would have been in Second Life. It was that long ago, and it was a city that was built on a planet. Yeah. And you walked, you teleported into it, right? And you were in streets. And it wasn't anything elaborate. It was like a bit of a concrete jungle. But you were able to walk around the curved surface. You know, the planet was a very small planet, you know, so it's more like an asteroid. So as you walked, you started going downhill. And you ended up upside down. And you were able to follow the thing around. Now, I mean, I remember this at the time. I don't think I really ever found out the answer, but it seemed to me I couldn't understand how the physics worked, because how could I be how could I be standing upside down on a prim that was a planet, if you see what I mean, without falling?
Because you're in virtual reality and there is no gravity.
Yeah. Oh, I know that, but there's still a physics engine.
Well, that's actually interesting, and I'm going, if I may, I will experiment with that a little bit and see if we can't do something fun with that for something in the future. That would be fun to do for sure.
It was the very thought of being inside an Escher painting that made me think, well, okay, I'm going to be sideways, upside down, twisting and turning, but what's going to hold me up? You know, because the painting is something you imagine that comes to you as an optical illusion that you imagine. You never actually have to put a physical entity into it. So
oh yeah, and this Gaia needs. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. Excuse me for it. But what he's done in his artist cube with this is really phenomenal. That's why we're so proud to be able to represent his work and share it with everybody next month.
Great.
Yes, and we do have a website where people can go and take a look at it. It's called Streamable, just streamable.com.
Oh, that's easy to remember.
I have to correct. You will not find the link if you just enter streamable.com. You have to get the link direct, or you have to go on the website onebiennale.org. Then you find something.
Ah, okay. Now, I was actually going to ask about that. Onebiennale.org is the other website on the poster there. What's the Biennale? The Biennale site obviously is a much greater berth than, you know, the individual events here. What is your focus with the one Biennale? Sorry, my pronunciation site. What will people find there as a rule?
Yeah, the word Biennale comes from Italy. It's the first Biennale in Venice. That's why it's so pronounced. And in English, you can say biennial, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. And
also the writing of the word Biennale differs. So it is a question if you take the old European Italian writing, or if you take different writing, and it's mixed internationally. So I think we are a little bit in history, so we use the old writing of, as you see on the website, the word, and It's an art event happening every 2 years. That's the definition of a biennale. So the next will be in 2020, after this was done in 2018. And this corresponds with the biennale in Santorini. Santorini, a Greek island, a wonderful island, a lot of people know it, has also a biennale. And I'm one of the curators of the Santorini Biennale for immersive art, for digital art. So we have at the Biennale in Santorini the classical stuff like painting, sculpture, reading, theatrical performances, glass, ceramics, and. And we have one section that's digital art. And for this digital art, we of course want to be on top of the Biennale always shows frontiers or extending frontiers. So
cutting edge,
you can say it. And so we had the first immersive interactive, as I call it, digital presentation in 2016. And it was a surreal cube, one focus, and one focus was surreal towers, and a lot of specific impacts. Also the Molly Blom collection, as Juliette mentioned. Molly Blom is the first artist whose work is in total conserved in OpenSim. And she made great, stunning works in Second Life. And as she left Second Life, or before she left it, she gave it all to conservation OpenSim, and it was a cooperation or collaboration with her over months, over hundreds of hours, because it's not so easy just to copy some stuff from somewhere and upload it on your home server, whatever, and have it there. Yeah. It is rather difficult because of course, that the big worlds, the big OpenSim worlds with thousands of regions have an asset server. And the asset server and the database and everything divided like in a distributed network makes it impossible to conserve things in the future. So you have to bring it on a standalone running system, and it's a lot of details behind. But we managed this with Molly Blom, and so she was the first presented in a real world biennale, and it was the Immersive in Santorini. And this year will be also that's a co-location, let's say, for our project. It is a real co-location, so you don't see it just in the server on your computer, on your screen. You see it also, in fact, on the Greek island. So that's a little bit the connection between Immersivia, one Biennale, and the extension of the project of conservation into the future.
How, May I add something?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I think one thing that I see with Art Blue's project, the One Biennale, is it really is a true bridging of, for example, Second Life with OpenSims, with real life. So it really is multidimensional in that sense. And that's what makes it such an exciting project to be involved with. So that's all.
I was actually going to bring that up. Well, the real life side of it, or the organic world, as I refer to it.
Organic, yes.
Obviously, I mean, I know I live locally to quite well known a gallery called the Serpentine Gallery here in London. It's in the middle of Hyde Park, and a few years ago, Calfei, China Tracy, she was known as in Second Life. She had built a real world model of this sort of China city sort of thing that she built, and she also exhibited at this gallery, which it was one of about 4 parts of a theme event called Pavilions of the Future. And obviously the one focus was the idea of virtual spaces as being pavilions, where the communities are, where you can congregate, collaborate, discuss, and all that sort of stuff. But what was fascinating to me, because it never really clicked until I was on the spot, was that China was hanging around too, and they'd actually put a whole load of workstations in the galleries so that people could go into Second Life and actually see some of the works. And people were very confused, and even though I was only there as a visitor, I ended up sort of hosting it a bit because I was taking people to the machines and showing them how to do this, that, and t'other. And what was really fascinating, I think it's when it came to the 3D art, you know, sculpture and a lot of organic art is obviously 3D by its nature. We live in a 3D world, but there was nowhere like the virtual world where, for example, you could create some kind of abstract made out of like clouds and things that, as you say, would defy gravity and have a sort of surreal, ethereal quality almost, because they're not creations that could ever have been made in the organic physical world. They had to be made in virtuality. And what I found odd was trying to measure the degree to which people were interested not just in the virtual environment as a new way of going in and seeing an art gallery, but in their ability to appreciate art that could only be virtual. So I'm wondering, maybe art, you know, obviously with the binaural things and the what you call the real world connection. Do you notice, you know, do you get any tangible feedback from, say, real world visitors and real world participants as to their understanding of art or understanding indeed of the virtual platforms that host it?
Yeah, I was teaching at the university as an associate art professor with viewer's recognition on digital structures. So it is one of my basic patterns to understand the human brain in recognizing art. And I publish a lot in, let's say, a little scientific way also, but understandable way, I hope, and also entertaining. So if you have a chance to read resmagazine.com is the link. Oh, yeah. So yeah. You will get a lot of side effects that come up when you see yourself in virtual worlds, when you reflect your personality, when you change your personality, when all these implications we discuss there come to happen and what the consequences are. Let me link a little bit to the one Biennale. Brian O has or is about to make a sculpture in real life, a bronze sculpture. And so there will be two prizes, one given by the voters, by the public, by the visitors. They can vote and say that's the best cube or that's the cube I like the most. Mm-hmm. And I will decide for some artists, and so there will be two first prizes, the community category and the art blue category, and so the statue will then be shipped to the person who took part in but only if this person let's say has an how is it called in English, an outcome or something like this. If the person says, yeah, I am Max Schultz and I live in Brooklyn and that's my address and that's me, yeah, you don't know if this will happen, or if it's just a fantasy name and the person says, oh no, I don't want to expose my real life, I want to stay virtual, and then I say it's fine, but. And this I need to include, but then they claim intellectual property on what they have. And that's a little crazy. If you have a fantasy name, yeah, and then you say, but that's my work, I claim property rights, and it's against the law if it's an open sim and can be copied by a hacker. Oh God, then I want to know, who is this person? No, I don't say who I am. I'm just virtual. So it's a contradiction that happens here every day long, and I can talk endless about such questions because I'm a social scientist, and so it's amazing what we face every day in our work for the one Biennale.
Yeah. Well, it's very funny. I came across this a few years ago because it wasn't just celebrities, it was people in the street. If a photographer comes up to you and takes your picture, right, then as the photographer, he has copyright in the picture, but he has to share it with you because you have copyright in the likeness.
Right.
So, a photographer can't just come up to you in the street and say, I'd like to look at you, can I take a photo, and then hang it in a gallery and sell the prints. They would have to contact you and share the royalties.
I don't agree fully. I don't agree fully because you have a right on photograph different from country to country, different, really strongly different, and then you go to the internet with this. So where it was it made, by whom was it made, on what server was it uploaded, or is it uploaded, in what country was it consumed or visited or seen? That's a lot of questions around, and we are in virtual worlds, that makes it even more difficult.
In my younger days, I worked with a lot of artists, handling, contracts and reproduction rights, copyright-related issues. And I was quite passionate about it because, artists did their best work when they were, they weren't contracted or under commission, when they were actually, retained that ownership. They will put a lot more work into it. But as the internet age has come and stuff like that, I think it has gone to extremes. I mean, the internet was originally just about low resolution pictures and a bit to read and share. Artists, say a watercolor artist in the organic world, was not too bothered about a low resolution JPEG going up, as a sort of little gallery on the web, because people copied it. What could they do with it? It wasn't even a good enough resolution to make a postcard out of. So it was no threat to their to the income they made as copyright owners, creators. But obviously now we've got the swinging dancing web with video and high definition, and somebody could start posting really high resolution things up there and be stealing copyright. So I think a lot of the digital content stuff, although very valid, is, it might be overused in a way, because, really, what has value that is worth protecting, something that is marketable and can make money for an artist is obviously worth protecting, because you don't want somebody taking your work and doing that. But in other respects, exposure is also publicity. It's really, so if it's simply, once upon a time I might have had to buy a print of an artist's work to put on my wall. Now I just download the screensaver, and the screensaver may cost nothing, whereas the print costs something. So there's a slight difference there, but in terms of its functionality, it's kind of very similar. The boundaries have sort of changed, and at the end of the day, hopefully, at heart, I think an artist just does something they want to do and hope it communicates with the most people possible. And half of the thing is communicating the art, not just merchandising it, selling it. So, I think sometimes things can go overboard a bit now in terms of, that photography thing was an ideal thing because it was absurd. The thought that every person in the street who could ever be photographed shared copyright with the photographer. I mean, come on, how do you enforce it? And I think the electronic world is a bit the same. It should be more focused on enforcing the value and rarity rather than just every little contravention. But that's a separate thing, and we have our hands full of it in virtual worlds where 3 years go by and then somebody complains to DigiWorlds the other week that, hey, that whole shop and that whole enterprise on the is all stolen from Second Life. But it took them 3 years to find it, and even then, going into every little bit of pixel and proving it is another thing entirely, really.
It would be a great theme to take into the show, into the TV, about intellectual property. What if you have a link set and you change the root prim creator, then it looks like made by the one who made the last prim. How really to communicate who is the creator and who is the creator of what part. And if you combine stuff like a lot of artists do, they took from friends or they collaborate with others, and then they create something really stunning. Conceptual art is the term. The conceptual artist is this person the creator of the whole stuff, or is it just an arrangement of art made by others? So that is a big question, and the American Supreme Court has ruled about it in the case of Prince. So it's Richard Prince, and quite astonishing, this ruling, that you can do in digital times really a few scratches on an artwork who has someone else made, and you are then the royalty man. You get the money. You are the artist because you have redefined this piece just by making a few scratches in it. That's a stunning view, and we have to handle this in a fair way with our art conservation things. And I posted today also on this because I was asked how we deal with stuff that comes from different artists and are brought together in a pavilion to a one unique piece.
This is going back, to early years experience of mine, even in something as simple as publishing, this was always a problem. It's down to attribution, but for example, you could have a story or a comic strip, graphic novel, and it's complete, it's owned by the creators, and a publisher takes it on, and they take on, say, the first printing rights, and if they want to do anything else, they have to renew it. Fair enough. But then they employ somebody to write an introduction to it, and then they package it up in a nice fancy sleeve. Maybe the sleeve includes artwork by the author, or maybe it's something that they commission. If it's just text, they commission an artist to do the cover and stuff. And then they suddenly start talking about what they call the edition rights. Because although the book is mostly a book by a given author or creative team, the edition and all the little things that surround it that make it an edition are allegedly the copyright of the publisher, even though the bulk of the content is somebody else's copyright and reproduced under license. So they're always trying to get into the intrigue here. And I think if you have a collaborative thing, right, let's say it's like a comic strip, you've got an inker, penciler, writer, and they collaborate as a team and they work out between themselves how to share royalties or whatever. But let's say you're collaborating in a virtual space, right? I think you have to make defined rules when you're creating, like the collaboration will be jointly owned, but the individual parts of the collaboration, if they were done by the individual, could be repurposed outside the collaboration and have individual ownership. But it's all, I don't want to get into a whole copyright argument here, but it's a very delicate thing. And, sometimes I think, it just needs to be simplified for the modern age to, I rather suspect that attribution is really the key, to create a discipline where people at least attribute. When I was young, I used to do a lot of photo montage and, graphic design. And that the art of graphic design is actually working with component parts. Say you're designing a page or something, or even a stage set. You are working with different elements on different layers, and you're completing a final work that is your work, but it is solely comprised of other people's photographs, other people's illustrations, other people's paintings, other people's words. So what you've done is a work that you've kind of has your mark on it as a designer, but no component part of it is yours. Do you see what I mean? So it's where does the designer in that case, what is their status? They certainly don't really own anything, but they do sort of own the credit for having put it together that way.
Yeah,
So-
I agree, Mal.
Yeah.
I agree, Mal. You have to make it simple, and that's exactly what we do. We have a little blue box with C and L with 2 letters. Create a link on it, and if you click this box, you get to a website, and there you see who contributed what part to this artwork. So we have then pictures and text, and there will be even a book printed, so you can see later this was a part of this person and that was a part of this person, and then you may get from time to time even the real name of this person. When it comes that it gets famous, then they cry, "Oh, that's me, and I'm this person." Yeah, but as long as it's not so recognized, they say, "Oh no, I'm virtual. I don't want anything to expose, but then if it's a book, oh yeah, can I get a book? Yeah, I have to send it somewhere. Then I cannot place the book at Kensington Square and say the first come gets it. Yeah.
Oh no!
So
I used to have to do it all the while. The easiest way in the UK to copyright something was you made a carbon copy of a manuscript or something like that, and you sent it in the post to yourself. But you made sure it was postmarked, and you never opened it because the post office seal was proof of first ownership or first creativity. So long as you handed that, put it in a safe or gave it to a lawyer, so long as that package was never opened, the seal and the postmark was proof that
Mm-hmm. It's like that here in America also. It's still like that. You can still copyright your product like that, or go to the Library of Congress and file it and get an ISBN number, which costs only about $75, and then you're really secure.
Or you upload it to Amazon, so it's also there.
Well, it's the same thing because you still have to get an ISBN number from the Library of Congress in order to even publish it on Amazon.com. So either way, you're protected. Yeah.
We need an ISBN.
I have
for a virtual creation. How do you mail that back to yourself? I wonder.
You can. And that's
I have
thing,
it. I have such things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all regurgitation. We're all just taking creativity and regurgitating it in different forms and colors and layouts. And so really, if we really wanted to come to the core issue of creativity, whether it's virtual or organic or wherever, we're just interpreting the same thing slightly different. So nobody really owns it. We all own it. And that's kind of the positioning that I take anymore.
It's like basically there's nothing new under the sun.
There is nothing.
We're all producing according to our own influences, and if what comes out is unique, fair enough. But it's derived from something somewhere. Even if it's something we glimpsed when we were 2 minutes out of the womb, it's still in there somewhere. So in there, resonating somewhere. Yeah. So that's really quite a rights and stuff like that.
It's all very fascinating, and I often think about this. I think back to the movie Blade Runner, and they examine one of the biological creations, and down at the microscopic level, it has some kind of identifier in it. And it's always seemed to me that as we build virtual worlds, could we put some kind of a DNA in the code or the assets or the design? Or I know that the JPEG image has a EXIF data that can be embedded with the image. Of course, that can be hacked.
Yeah.
But something like that seems like it should help protect the creator.
Yeah, and there's watermarking. There's all sorts of things, but they tend to be add-on. The EXIF data in JPEG, for example, is simply added into the JPEG format long after the JPEG format itself was created. And it's like, well, I'm not even going to go into GIFs, because GIFs aren't even
those are compilations, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even open source.
And you know what? As creators, as artists, if we worried about people borrowing our creativity, nobody in the world would ever create. So I think we have to practice that Buddhist concept of just letting go, let go and create, enjoy it and let it flow. And if you inspire somebody else so much that they need to imitate you in their own art work, or they need to borrow a part of yours and bring it in, it's almost a compliment. It's a huge compliment. I mean, what's that old saying? Imitation is the best compliment.
There's a serious form of flattery.
Exactly.
Well, I think also another change is that, I mean, for a lot of this, I blame Mickey Mouse, you know, that, you know, copyright has been used to such a strange extent. And I love the idea of the sites like Patreon and things like that, where an artist is somehow, I don't want to say compensated, but at the time of creation rather than the time of distribution. And,
exactly,
you know,
that's it. Yeah. At the time of creation. Yeah. It's all interesting.
It is. It's fascinating. Social.
Of course, some of the greatest art and the greatest novels of our time weren't recognized until after the creator was dead. You know, so.
All the masters. All the masters. Yeah.
Exactly. But
they were the starving artists, right? They were the starving artists, and then they became great after death. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's what AD is, right? I mean.
I think this is what conservation, as we started with here, you know, is all about, really. I mean, it's this region we're on now is a private grid. It's running off my own desktop, or one of my desktops. You know, you're in because I invited you in, and this is where we record the shows. But I never have an audience here. I never have more than 5 or 6 people on the grid at a time, you know, or I'll crash my machines. It's the way I do it. But there's huge surrounds here, and it looks like nowhere else, even though most of the individual things here you would have seen somewhere else, if you saw me, because I just pick up freebies here and there, and you know, I take a little satisfaction in the way I arrange them, and I arrange, you know, the hills and valleys and things you walk around. It's all mesh. It's not even landscape, terraform rather, and you know. To me, I like the idea that stuff can be like preserved that way. Now, if I put this in the cloud somewhere and made it into a public grid, I mean, I wouldn't have time to run one. But I mean, you know, if I did, you know, it would open up a whole new can of worms, you know, because you'd be a public grid that people go to, and then people would say, "Hey, well, that thing, I did that." And I did that. But, you know, if I'm just hosting a copy in my, like, private collection on my private computer, and friends come in, or people come in now and again and see it, it's a very different ball game, you know, from taking somebody else's work and you know, modifying it a bit somewhere else and getting major traction out of it, you know, where you're riding on the other person's name or the other person's skills. So yeah, let's get off this subject, or we'll
be here all day.
We'll be calling in the lawyers for the expertise. But you know, it's something I think artists, you know, I think most artists are about communicating, and whether they are commercial artists who do something deliberately to try and communicate to the greatest audience, or whether they're like private artists who do something and keep their fingers crossed it will resonate with a greater audience. You know, there's a bit of a difference there, but I think most artists are one way or another driven by their art. Go figure, you know. But talking about, I'd like to go back into history a little bit too, to learn a bit about how you both entered, I suppose, the virtual space as artists, or maybe you entered the virtual space before you saw it as an opportunity as an artist. I'll start with you, Art, because I'm familiar with your work in Second Life since probably as long as I've had an avatar. I can't be quite sure. You know, when were you first around in virtual space creating, or in virtual space full stop for that matter?
It was in 2007, as the hype of Second Life reached out to Europe, 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring my old works, that means works of the late 70s, into a walkable virtual world where you can explore it.
Yeah.
And where you can see art, my art, and where I can show it to students. I was teaching, and I still am in teaching from time to time, for students of art becoming art teachers. So if you are a teacher in the arts, and that's my origin, let's say, you have a problem. Let's call it a problem. You want, as a teacher of art, avoid computers. You want to avoid math in specific. So if you are not good in math, but you want to make an academic career, then the art is it. And art and computers and math, there is a problem. So if it comes to computers, in the 70s, in the 80s, it goes via math, via algorithm, via programming, via understanding the code.
Yeah.
And I set up a program in 1975 as I was a student at high school, where it became very easy for art students becoming teachers to use it. So I got a call to teach this and made parameter art. That means you have just subroutines where you enter, and then you have great results. So this artwork still exists on paper, and I wanted to bring them into the international community so you can walk around and see it in Second Life. And so I created a gallery, but I was not able to create a gallery, so someone helped me. Nikki Lane from Australia, and she gave me her stunning gallery and said, "It's for you, art," and she gave it full perm to me. So later on, a few years, I could download this gallery to open them, because it was possible to the old TOS of Linden Labs, the old terms of services, that if you got it full perm, you could download it on your personal local hard drive. That's no longer working, but at this time it was possible. And so I could give a lecture at the university in Malta, and we brought then the works we made there. It was 2009 or 10, I have to check, to a real museum, to the Museum of the Prime Minister of Malta. So we could exhibit in a real world what we made in a second world. So I kept on going in this world.
Right, okay, so you ended up in Second Life because it was a place to create a gallery, really, and you ended up, while you still could, copying it out and bringing it here, which is makes sense. I mean, I remember that with I think when I first joined Second Life, I had ideas of making a gallery too. I'm not an artist, so it wouldn't be my own work, but it was like counterculture type archives and stuff, which you have in real life. But I thought, scan them, put them in a gallery, make an environment where these archives are kept. It's too heavy a job. I can't even scan them into a computer, and put them in the virtual world. It'd take a few more life signs, I think, to do it, but. That conceptually, that seemed an idea, and I think I got the idea from you were talking about the 70s. Well, we're not talking that far back, but I guess we're talking early 90s, after the web protocols came into play. I think it was Tony Parisi came up with VRML, which was very, very simple at the time, but it allowed its sort of geometric shapes, to take form and stuff on web pages. And somebody I knew literally built a virtual city that way. And all you really did is you walked about the web page in a very rudimentary manner, but you could go into a library and go into a building that was a museum. And from there, you were kind of viewing other web elements and things. It really was an extension of the web, and it just made it feel like a virtual, kind of walk around. So, I mean, at the beginning, I suddenly thought that was it. Until you realize that the actual environment itself opens up, a whole lot more possibilities. It's not just transposing the organic word in, it becomes, much more in itself. How about you, Juliette? How did you first get involved in the virtual environment, I guess?
This was in 2009, and November 19th, 2009, and I was doing a search engine optimization on one of my websites, and went to Google, typed in a keyword, and number 10 listing on that Google page was a slurl, and I had never heard of this term, and I opened it up and saw this incredible photo and read about Come to Second Life, never heard of it. And so I entered in, I made my free account and entered in, and then I got very involved for 6.5 years. I got very, very involved in SL Fashion World. So I carved out a niche for myself. And then about 5 years ago, I was asked to manage a art gallery on a sim, and I did that. And then I went to one of Art's Leah installations called Moonriser. I think Leah 8. Gosh, this was about 3 years ago, and as I became his shadow. I just stalked him, I guess, and then I was invited to help him as an assistant curator. And so this particular avatar, Juliette the Surrealdreaming, is actually in Second Life. It's actually my third primary artist, because when I decided to get involved only in the art world, I created her, and I have the art gallery, of course, in Second Life, Surreal Tower, or Surreal Gallery, and also came on board as one of Art's assistants for helping to curate. And I do what you do very well, Mal. I love to decorate sets. So in the movie industry, I'd be a great set decorator.
Yeah. I agree with that, yeah.
So that's it.
Fascinating. Now, both of you... I'm not going to go really into Sansar here. I don't know why. I mean, I know of a machine that can't possibly not have the right specs, but I can't jump to anywhere in Sansar in less than half an hour. And when I do get there, I don't know. As I said, Sciencebase, which I don't think either of you do know, is my Sansar, so to speak. And we had Joey Obama on the show a couple of weeks ago, for example, and he made, I'm not wearing it now, but he made my mesh avatar, and it means my avatar, for example, is the same here most of the time, although its lips don't move, which is why I've changed back to this thing. As I do in Sciencebase, and I've even managed to get the same avatar into high fidelity, but I can't find a way of wearing it. It's standing there as a statue. But both of you said that moving from the past to the future, as it were. Both of you have your eye on future platforms, but you both mentioned that you're both. Hang on, I'm getting a lot of noise from... Oh, sorry, it's Art's mic. You both said that you are both in high fidelity too. So, well, let's start with you, Juliette, this time. What kind of things are you doing in high fidelity? Is it an extension of what you're doing here, or just on another platform, or are you doing
Last year we were doing Snow Crash, the novel by Stephenson, the Snow Crash Productions, and so we were taking it to high fidelity so that Phil Rosendale could be perhaps a keynote at the one we did there. And high fidelity for me is a difficult platform to build within. And it was hard to upload through their mesh process or just our upload process. It was very difficult. And so that sort of went onto a side shelf. And now, of course, we moved forward into another project. But I want to say one thing, Mel, because, you know, all of us who are or were in High Fidelity last year had that opportunity to go to Dube, which is in Organic Life, which is a 3D scanner, and have a real life. Yeah, both Art and I did that. So we had High Fidelity.
Lucky you. It must be local to the place that did it.
Well, Los Angeles for me, but I'll tell you what, it is freaky to see you as an avatar in virtual reality. It just blew my mind. And my son went with me, and so he's also an avatar at High Fidelity. And we stare at the screen going, oh my God, it's like a Twilight Zone or something like that. It's very...
that is hilarious because I learned that I too learned the hard way. Actually, long before, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a game company called Mikazook. Their world never really had a name. It was beta. In the UK here, in fact, and there actually was a journalist from one of the British newspapers who got hold of me and said, "Can I introduce you to this game guy?" And they actually did a full 3D scan of me, and I'd actually had it done previously, so I sent the wireframey sort of files. But they also worked with photographs of me, and they created an avatar for me, and in this beta world. But the only thing about this world was I was trotting around, you know, testing things in the virtual New York and stuff like that. And it was a kind of mirror world where the idea was people will contribute images and raw materials of their own real world environment, and gradually the whole virtual environment will become to mimic the real one with geo mapping and all sorts of things. They're very ambitious projects, and I guess they just didn't pick up the traction or funding. But what was really funny is that one day they got hold of me and they said, "Can you log in tomorrow? We want some, you know, of our collaborators' avatars in there because French television are going to come in and do a program on us." So of course I turned up and I, you know, it was like being filmed for a movie. I did whatever they wanted me to do and chatted and said what I thought was right, and that was that. Until a couple of months later, when I got sent a link to the actual TV program, you know, that had gone out on air. You know, it was a copy on YouTube or something like that. And, you know, I was watching the thing for about 30 seconds, and then, shock of my life, I saw this avatar trotting towards me down the street, coming into the conversation. And, you know, but the thing was, because it wasn't even an over-the-shoulder view. You saw every other avatar but your own. So I had never actually experienced seeing my own avatar in this world before. And of course, talk about uncanny valley. You know, here was me looking like me as an avatar on French television. And I was just, you know, I thought, I'm not sure photographic avatars are quite a good idea, I thought.
Yeah, it's a mind blow.
I'll stick with the idea, you know, slightly more idyllic renderings of me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stay purple and pink and match your backdrop. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. Choosing a costume that goes with my set. Yes. and at least it's got a complete chest today. But that's that's a separate story. We're interested in the NPC. How about you, Ars, in terms of High Fidelity? What have you been doing there? How are you finding it?
I was in Berlin, as Juliette said. She was in Los Angeles, and we are one of the lucky, I think, 100 people who have been sponsored by digitalization of our body. And a student of mine, Art Eames, I took also with me, so he's also scanned. He looks quite good, I have to say, but if I look at myself, I have to say I look much better in real life than as avatar. So I have a problem to high fidelity as I look.
This is like when I was a kid, and I pestered my parents as a kid. I wanted a tape recorder, to make compilations of music and things like that. But, I thought I could DJ myself into this tape recorder. The moment I heard the sound of my own voice, I hated it. And I actually wonder if we ever see our own real world, modeled avatars. We love them, all of them. They look great, except our own. Our own is just not right, is it? Because we don't.
You start picking it apart. Oh my God! Look at that! Oh, look at that! Oh no!
Yeah. In chat, I gave you a link. I wrote about Sansa and high fidelity in September last year in Res Magazine. So my first experience is documented there. And I remember posting of Bruno from last month or from even maybe in January, where Bruno stated that sitting at my desk, I had 2 table games ready to enjoy the waiting time until Sansa World is loaded. But it was not enough. I need to eat an apple in addition. So in this way, So it's even if you have high power computers, and Bruno has a high performance computer, because if you live from this digital world doings, you need a top machine, and I know the machine. I was there last year. So the problem is if such an artist sees, oh God, it takes time and time and time, and it eats my time, it eats just my time, then a world will not make it in a fast speed. And we had a discussion in Open Simulator Conference where Maria Kolovko, her name is spoken, Maria from the Hypergrid News, Business News, said...
She used to be a co-host on this show, but she's...
where she said, others are growing exponentially, we are growing linear. Okay, for OpenSim, it's not a problem. We are a niche. But if a product like Sansa wants to make business, a grow has to be exponentially. It doesn't work linear.
Yeah.
So I doubt that such a growing will happen.
I
read on performance, and I have a high-end machine with 32 gigabytes SSD, accelerator, graphic cards, about $1,000. So if I have to wait 5 minutes for loading stuff, others have to wait longer.
Isn't it funny that Debbie Altberg at Linden Labs, made such a play out of Second Life and everything else? It's got to be fast and easy and simple and accessible. And what is Sansa? Everything but.
It is everything but.
But how about high fidelity?
High fidelity is difficult in one word. It's primarily made for VR equipment. So for Oculus Rift or for Sony or Samsung or whatever head-mounted display you might wear. Yeah. So the user interface, if you go via desktop, and I go via desktop, is not suited. It's really not good. And I gave also feedback to Phil Rosedale that things has to be changed. Also, Juliette was in interview. So we gave interview on what's the marketing side and what's user interface design has to be. Yeah. And I think they will not go away from this approach that new worlds have to be with head-mounted displays. That's the mission of high fidelity, and if he can keep it running and going over the next year, and really the HMD will come, then it might be great. Then it might be different. Then it might fit. I see some points with uploading of content a problem. at least it was a problem until now. Now he worked on a digital payment system, not Bitcoin, but a similar system.
Blockchain.
Yeah, and to handle something. But as I tried to upload the theater we had in Second Life made by Heid Hackel for a talk, the Snow Crash, as Juliette said, to have it there, it was accessible. What we had uploaded, the mesh, just openly in the web when you know the link. So when you know where the mesh part is stored, if you have the full link, you have the build to download. And that cannot be the way that you say, oh, that's the link where my build is, just copy and paste it in the browser and you have it in high fidelity, but you have it also on your local hard drive.
Well, that's it. The sandbox.
Too strange for me to say it's all open for everyone. Just you have to find the link, and the link is very long, so it's a little bit difficult. That's not the way. And it's called the sandbox concept, whatever. So I think in this matter, it has a weakness, but for sure he knows it, and he will handle it.
I think
the HMD that is needed that excludes a lot of people.
Since I started this region, which is based on Third's Outworld thing, I didn't realize how much of a difference it will make to me that my home is now on my real desktop. And, I hang out here, there are no restrictions, anything, and I just hypergrid to where I want to go and hypergrid back again. And I love the hypergrid because, jumping to places is as intuitive as it has always been when it's working. and yet when I press the home button, I'm back on my own computer. The whole grid is in one of my desktops. And, the whole hypergrid could be offline and I could still log into my own, And, I only have to, when I'm hypergridding around, sometimes if you're on the home grid and your home grid crashes, then you get logged out of the hypergrid because you're anchored in your home grid. Or when the home grid's your own computer, that never happens. So there's little bits that are there. But and I think Philip's idea with the sandbox orientation of your local sandbox is your home in high fidelity is sort of fine, but it's not as seamless as taking a hyperlink jump on the hypergrid from here. You sort of you may log into your home or your last location or something. If you want to actually work on anything, you've got to go back into your local machine on your own sandbox, which is the way Science-Based works. You have to do the work on your region in Unity, but the tools that they provide, I find very awkward. And like you, I'm in there on a desktop. It may be powerful, but it's not. I don't want a helmet. I don't like full immersion. I like to know when somebody's sneaking up on me and about to clobber me or something. I don't know. Keep a little bit of contact with the world, please. I was in there for ages, right? And I couldn't find out how to make friends until I discovered that if I was in virtual reality helmet, I simply shook hands with somebody, and the moment you shake hands with them, they become your friend. And it wasn't. I think it was Chris Collins actually ultimately told me, there is a quickie for that, and he waited for about 15 minutes, about a minute, while he looked up the key himself and told me what the key was. And sure enough, I was able to point at somebody and make a friend out of them, or ask them if they wanted to be a friend. But it was obstacles like that, and I said, the thing, my criticism about all this new VR stuff, technology, hardware, is I'm fascinated by interfacing, positive design, computer interfacing. So I'm keen to know about all these input-output methods, that will empower us, and the virtual environments were the first step towards that, because that's your environment and your content, as it were, and your creative outlet. But a lot of these hardware design things, for the Oculuses and Vives and stuff, these are simply they're barely the Sansar experiences, you know, because they're providing kit without substantial content. You know, sure, you can put a thing on and experience a 3D video or something for 15 minutes, or you can go into the old compatible game and stuff like that, but it's not the living kind of collaborative. There is no living collaborative space like we have in OpenSim. There is also no other platform, even, you know, Sansar, Space, High Fidelity, or any of the new ones, have anything like the concept of the hypergrid, which can connect disparate grids together. And I think for Hyperdata's big mistake, like you, is the reliance, you know, on, you know, they've got to come up with content first, and who cares whether it works in a headset? If it works on a flat screen and is compatible with a headset, that is also the good, I'm sure. But it's no, you know, they're not going to get much traction, as you say, out of marketing something that requires a headset. They have to, if they want to be mass market and get traction and grow, they have to be available to anybody and everybody, really. And, you know, in theory, low latency and everything else like that in high fidelity should mean it will be very accessible. But every time I go there, I feel like I'm surrounded by geeks and devs and things. And, you know, they do a couple of TV shows there, and you've only got to go see the commentator open their mouth. And, you know, it's like, you know, geek playtime.
And you are, yeah.
Yeah, what can we throw at each other? And to me, you know, we would like to have a laugh now and again, but we don't spend time on the hypergrid, you know, throwing things at each other. Unless, of course, it's art. And I doubt if it is most of the time, you know, except for maybe Save Me O.
Save Me O.
But, you know, these things, you know, have to be usable. I'd actually suggest both of you Google Science Space, actually, and check that out too, bearing in mind that Adam, who runs that, is it's a bit more like Sansar, but it's fast and furious, and lovely lighting. You know, Adam, of course, is a founder of OpenSim, so it's very much, you know, you can tell him something you've got over here, and he'll say, "Oh, well, I'll try and arrange that for you over a mind." You know, he understands, you know, what OpenSim was all about. He was a co-founder, so yeah. It might be worth you're looking. It's kind of, you know, there's high fidelity. Okay, Sansar, oh, please, and Science Space is the other one on my radar, and probably my preferred one. There's quite a lot of events there too. So, okay, let's get back to the art. Did we cover everything that's on this poster? I'm still looking at it on our wall here. We got February the 7th. Longer term is you got art, talk about art. Is February the 7th the big date here, or is there anything after that?
Well, there will be things after it, but that's the sort of the kickoff of active promotion of the One Biennale, starting with the HG Safari, the Grand Ball.
Yeah.
And then, what month is the actual? We're creating Art Imaz and Art Blue are just now creating the actual region for the One Biennale Sim, where all the final pavilions and art cubes will be housed. I'm not sure what month that will grand open though.
Okay, well, we'll follow it for sure. Yeah, sorry, Al?
I'm back. I was Skype was dropping, so I didn't hear the last 2 minutes. But assuming what Juliette just said, it will be April or May. It depends a little bit on how many people are working on it, because it's not like the Immersivia in Greece, where it's a deadline and then it's just done, yeah, and where you have to pay to contribute. Real life Biennale always have a contribution fee, not a big one, but otherwise you would be overrun by artists. Yeah, so you cannot handle it. So you need a contribution fee and then a deadline. The one Biennale has no contribution fee, and we want to propaganda what's done with books, with events, with visits, and with videos. And if Wizard Crom is listening, I don't know, then she is one of the great artists, videographer, or however you call it, machinista, or whatever. Maybe it's a nice Italian word, machinista or something like this. And so without a machinista, you cannot do it nicely, because video is the entrance for a lot of people to virtual art, to see by looking at the videos that's made by the artists, by the avatars who live and act in our world, not by Hollywood or whatever, not by faked photoshopping or whatever, not by blue screens or any such things. No, it's a reality we live in, and such a videographer or machinista brings it to the people. And in 2016 at the Immersivia in Santorini, I could present the Surreal Cube video from Wizard Crom, and it was fantastic that in this 10 minutes everybody was stunned what was on the screen, that's really there, that's raw, that's as it is. Yes, it's raw. It's not in another machine. where it's smoothed or where it's made nicely. So it's a raw cut, and we want such presentations when we open the One Biennale, because we open it on a lot of places around the world, and there is a list of locations. And I don't want to fantasize too much now. There's also Virtual Island, Unavero, which is in the area of Australia. But we have a lot of nice and crazy ideas, and some are quite realistic. So maybe in Berlin and in Santorini, in Edinburgh, in other towns that are listed, it will be seen via the Immersivia activity, so we can copy it on these locations and we can enlarge it to other locations. And every artist who is active in OpenSim can open the own location at home. So for one evening, for one night, this person can create an urbex, an urban space, as it's called in the art, or in German language is lost spaces. So you grab a lost space somewhere, let's say a garage at your grandma, and you make the One Biennale there. You have a big flat screen and you have some biscuits and something to drink, and you have a happening, and we give a live performance via Skype or YouTube or whatever it's possible, and then you can share what you have made in the Biennale and what others have made, and there can be an art talk, there can be everything. Just you have to set it up, and it can be big and it can be small.
Mel, you have to put on one for us, and we'll come to England.
Well, it's funny. We used to have. We haven't had one for a long while now, but we used to have these sort of, I guess, virtuality meetup. Well, I suppose it was sort of Second Life meetups, really. Very convenient for me because, for the most part, they were in a pub literally just downstairs from me. But there were some really good ones. They weren't art things per se. They were social, but the pub supplied these giant screens, that they use all week for showing sports, and on these screens, the husband of the pub manager was really into Second Life, so he was very much part of this, rigging it all up. But also we have live feeds of live video going out of the real world pub into London in Second Life.
Right.
So, and it got very confusing at times because you got people in the real world pub walking up to the screen and talking to avatars and having conversations,
I love it.
and vice versa. But because there were because there were streams going one way and the other, there were sometimes collisions of audio and things like that. They weren't too bad, but it was just great fun because you had all the fans, or if for want of a better word, of the virtual London, all over the world, in America and whatever, logged into virtual London. But you had all the people in actual London in real life connected via the big screen to the virtual London, and it was good. It was good. It was that extra, and I kept coming across. I think it's Cannes. Yeah, I think it must be Cannes in France, where they have an annual event, I think, where they've got huge Second Life screens up as part of a sort of carnival along the sides of the road, and so somebody's always posting about that, whatever time of year it is. They post these videos showing people, it's like a Rio or something, popping in the streets, but on the sides of the streets are giant screens showing avatars popping in.
Oh, I love it. That's
And that mixed reality thing that's what we used to call mixed reality before somebody invented a new use for the word. It really was great fun. But and of course, broadcasting this show and the other things we do and have done, to me that's also part of it, because there are so many people who don't know virtual worlds, don't come into them, but they will see things like this and maybe learn a bit. And if only 1 in 100 sees a video and thinks, "Geez, I've got to go in there." I've got to find what that is. Then that's a win. But it sort of functions separately. So, like Art said, if you've got these things going out as video, they could, especially if the machinima is made by the artist rather than somebody else making a machinima of an artist's work. They both work, but the artist gives you if the artist knows how to film, they give you a personal insight into their own work. Whereas a good machinima artist, however good they are, is really giving you an interpretation of their own experience looking at that work. So they're two slightly different things. But talking of conferences, I've just put up on our other slide board. Firstly, I'll get it in now just to remind people that on March the 15th and 17th, VR Evolutions or V Revolutions, whichever you want it to be, apparently, is happening. That's principally in Second Life. It's the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education conference. You do get a bit of art and stuff there, but they usually do 1 day in Open Sim of the 4 or 5 days it lasts, but I don't think they did last year. I'm not sure about this year. But the other slide I've got to show you is for something that might be familiar, but if you look carefully, you'll see there's a new date at the bottom, because the Hypergrid International Expo, which we were quite happy with at the end of last year, we're now doing the first one was an alpha. This, I guess, is the first proper beta. And it's going to be on 24th and 25th of March this year, and almost certainly on the same build we had over in GraphGrid. So I and Thurza and our collaborators are working on that, and hopefully, do you think we'll be seeing you, Juliette, at the next expo? You did, of course, have a extended slot at both OSCC last year and in I forget now. Was it in German? What language was the one you did?
German.
Yeah, yeah. So you did a German one at our expo, and you did an English one at OSCC. So, you got anything else in store that you think you might be thinking about doing for the next one?
I can do it in any language.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure Art will come up with something.
Yeah, I'll just do the same one again, but I'll do it in French this time.
I'll do it in French. I love that.
That's a good way of copying out, isn't it? We'll just we'll go through 4 expos doing the same thing 4 times in different languages.
I love it.
It was that was I must say sort of fun. Okay, well, let's look at the future again. I was very specific when I asked you about high fidelity and Sansar and stuff, but well, what's on the horizon? I mean, obviously, February 7th and things that may come after that. Is there anything else? I mean, for example, you're always popping up on Safari, and so every few months we seem to be visiting something else you're doing on Safari and stuff. Is there anything else coming up aside from the main stuff we've chatted about?
Yeah, let's see Monday. On Monday, we will have an out-of-sim seating or sitting. So the avatars will sit on a different region as they look at. So I hope to reduce the lag by, let's say 100%, because you sit somewhere where you, in fact, don't sit. So Venus has a full server where she can boom with the particles, and the sitting avatars are on a stick, and the stick is linked to a neighbor sim. So they are sitting, in fact, in a minus coordinates. They sit on a different sim, reaching to another one, and have a negative X. So that will be world performance, first performance.
Now, this is something I'm used to doing. Like at the expo, we obviously have the audience on 3 sims, and we have the stage on another.
No.
It's a new technology. You'll see it. It's really cool, Mal. Yeah.
You are sitting outside a sim. You look outside, or you look. You sit on a sim, but you don't sit on it, because you sit on a stick that's linked to the sim, so you sit somewhere else. So it's like if you go fishing, like a fish rod. So you're not on land visually, but you are in fact on land because you're standing there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's more like a fish rod concept.
So it's like the way we put mountains off.
A fishing rod. I don't know how the naming is correctly.
I make mountain surrounds off sim because they.
Okay, I lost voice, so we'll stop.
The moot prim is basically anchored on the sim, so it is on the sim, but the visually everything extends further out. That kind of thing. I've got to see this. So it's because normally what's anchored on the sim still adds to the weight of the sim. So I'll have to come and look at the technical side of this as well as come and see it.
It's really interesting. It's wonderful.
Oh, I see. Ars is still on Skype, so I think he was just saying in the back channel that he's off again, so he'll come back in probably. Yeah.
One of the other things we were Art and I have talked about is bringing Surreal Gallery to Metropolis or Future Lab. I'm not sure which yet, and linking it to the SL Art Gallery and showing artists who are willing to be in both worlds, both SL and Open Sims. And so that's a project we have for this year. We'll see if it pans out.
I know I always call them Senchai Library. I get it. What's the name? Sky Tower of Senchai Library. They do a lot of that. They have their library readings in Second Life, but they have them simultaneously on Kitely, I believe. And they kind of have their own special system that links the chat from both Second Life to OpenSim. They're still separate places, but at least they sort of share the chat and
they're
stuff.
united, yeah.
Have you ever had any thoughts? I don't know whether artists back with us. Have you ever had any thoughts about literally hosting your own region on the hypergrid? I don't mean run it. I don't mean. Hang on, now, I don't know if you can hear us. All I'm hearing is typing, very loud typing. Hosting your own region on the hypergrid, like a destination region for the arts and stuff. I mean, I'm not talking about running. Well, effectively, it is your own grid. Even like this is my whole own grid, even though it's not it hasn't got residents as such, except for James here actually. It's like your own permanent kind of archive place that is connected to the hypergrid, but maybe runs off a spare machine that you've got at home rather than on some commercial grid with a commercial server?
I believe the Biennale sim that's a region that's being worked on and created right now is just that. It's I believe it's on Daniel's computer, but I'm not I'm not 100% sure. But if my understanding is correct, it is that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think Art can hear. Art, you're not hearing right now?
Yeah, he sent a message in Skype back channel saying that, oddly enough, we are hearing Art's keyboard rather well, but not his voice. On Skype, his picture's sort of lighting up as if it's got a feed, but we can't actually hear him. We're just telling him that we can hear him type. So it might be it's just his microphone's come loose or something like that. But I think we're nearing round-up point anyway now. We've been nearly 2 hours on the show, so we have been known to go for 3 before we all die. But I mean,
wow.
it always takes more than an hour. I mean, the hour is always, people think it's a convenient length for a chat show, but the hour always comes and you're just warming up, getting into,
right?
So we just go open-ended. But I'm racking my brains now. Now, what did I forget to ask him? I'm going to try and come along tomorrow, and I will probably lurk in the background very antisocially and try and film what you're doing, if that's okay. I'm very out of practice at it, but I want to exercise my skills on the machines. So I've got an excuse as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be it's a beautiful show. It's visually beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And what time is tomorrow's performance? 1 p.m. That's
1 p.m. SL time or Pacific.
Right. So
United States. Yeah.
So it's 10 in the So it's 9 p.m. in Britain and 10 p.m. in Central Europe. Right. Got it. Okay. So nice and convenient end of the day for Europeans, so they can have a nice evening, and beginning of the day for Americans, so they won't miss it. Very good time. It's always a good time this time of night.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Pity the poor Australians, though. They're still dreaming of breakfast.
Oh, I know. I always feel sorry for them. They miss so much. So.
Yeah, time zones. Yeah. Well, what I do at the end of this show, always actually, just as a matter of habit, is I go around everybody here, for extra comments and also anything we haven't covered so far. I'm actually going to start with James, because I know when we were doing the news earlier, we had a couple of comments coming in there, so I don't know whether we've had any with this show. James?
Well, actually, yeah, we have had a few people online, and comments were a little bit earlier. I missed them, but we were talking about the digital, identifying copyright or things like that. And somebody commented that blockchain is possibly a revolutionary issue for copyrights on digital art, which I've heard that before, and that does sound interesting.
That Art did touch on that, and that is something that High Fidelity are doing. They're doing it not only with currency, but also as some kind of blockchain method of identifying assets, and with unique keys and things like that for copyright protection.
Yep. So that was it on chat.
Right, okay. So, while I've got you on, James, any thoughts from you before we close the show? Anything coming up exciting, or any views you had on what you're chatting about, really?
Oh, goodness. Well, a couple, I did get a Microsoft Mixed Reality headset, the HMD display. And it is interesting working with that, and I know that it's still burgeoning, still an emerging technology. But I'm just having a great time with it, and I could never spend as much time in a headset as I do on the desktop computer. 30 minutes, 45 minutes is about the max, but the experiences are very compelling, and it's there's certainly going to be some influence on both technologies, I think, going forward in the future.
Are you able to view, like here, OpenSim in the headset? Does it adapt to that, or do you need specific software for that works with the headset?
I think I would need specific software for OpenSim. You know, the Control Alt viewer has often been one quoted for working with headsets, and I've just not had any luck getting that to operate for me. So I'll wait for something more official to come along. But high fidelity and alt space are really working well as far as being social and virtual reality. So definitely things to keep an eye on. In fact, Steam VR has a social component that's rolling out now, which is really interesting. You can go like Sansar. You can go to spaces together, and it's not really hypergridding, but it's a start.
Oh, wonderful! Should and the other thing, I keep forgetting Old Space VR. You know, especially after it went and didn't go. It's something I should probably download and check out actually. You know, I've got my 4 or 5 different platforms loaded here, and eventually I'll just have a start menu full of 100 different platforms instead of 100 different apps. Okay, so Juliette, anything else you'd like to say while you're here? Anything else maybe unrelated to what we talked about that you're excited about at the moment, or?
No, just in comment, what you both were just talking about, the VR. I think it's going to also become more and more and more an aspect of our virtual worlds. I mean, we're seeing it. The Japanese are really taking it into places I would have never thought. But and then also, of course, if you're a gamer and you're on PlayStation, it's heavily there, and Xbox soon, I guess. But so it's the trend. It's where we're all going, and I think that's something to just keep in mind for the future.
I still puzzle myself over this as to whether. The public at large, like 3D television never took off. Even the modern incarnations and things, big screens do. And, where the future was meant to be immersive spaces, forget the VR side of it, but just immersive spaces like Second Life, when people were predicting that, the thing that actually was really happening was people were going mobile. It was so people weren't sort of cutting down on air travel and operating virtually. They were actually just still doing the same old thing, but doing it with a mobile in their hand.
Exactly.
And it makes me wonder. I mean, I think if I could have like a pair of like a visor, like goggles, right, that were lightweight and just fitted on over my eyes like a wraparound pair of glasses, shades. And they actually plugged into my smartphone when the smartphone are increasingly powerful enough to generate a double picture.
They're NASA computers now, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. A smartphone nowadays, the latest iModel or whatever is, 1,000 times faster than what used to get you to the moon,
Yeah.
It's, I just feel like the smartphone is a computer in your pocket. It's the engine. So just as you plug in headphones to listen to things, why couldn't you just put on some glasses that plug into the phone and give you that immediate power? No, this contraption on your head, even a lightweight piece of cardboard, is too much.
I think it's going that way, Mal. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the weight of the phone on your nose is a real pain. I mean, I want the computer in my pocket, and I want a pair of glasses, and then you
want it streamlined.
Yeah, and then I think it tends to be the gadget thing that makes it take off in the public imagination, not just the techies. The way the Walkman took over the music industry back when it was a tape player. Some things work and some things don't. And when something is small, portable, and very good, it does tend to and does something that you can't do already or enhances what you can do already. That seems to be a key factor in what you might call the mainstream public attraction. Who would have dreamt 10 years ago that everybody would be embarrassed if they didn't have a smartphone,
Yeah, or an iPod. An iPod, remember?
Yeah, I've still got an iPod. I got a little stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have half the, it doesn't have this Apple Pay or AirDrop or anything on it. It's just a pod.
Right.
But, yeah, I wasted my money on that one, actually. But private thoughts. Okay, now, according to my Skype, Art is live. Are you there, Art? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. Thanks.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, you're just in time for us to do our little roundup. I always ask people before they go if there's anything else exciting going on, anything else they're keen on at the moment and looking forward to. It doesn't need to be necessarily involved with virtuality or anything, just anything you're up in the air about at the moment.
Did we lose him?
I'm not sure if my voice goes through now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I see here bad bandwidth. So if the bandwidth is okay, then I want to say thank you, Mal, for everything. And Juliette and all who has worked behind the screens or behind the computers. And hope that we have another chance to talk.
Indeed. Okay, well, we're going to close the show now, so I hope you can still hear me. Indeed, I hope we do. I hope to get to see you tomorrow with the sound thing at 9 p.m. my time. Diary. And yes, for sure. Future conferences and get you back on the show sometime. So everybody, we will be back same time, same place next week. I'd like to thank all our guests here today. As usual, James Atler. Thank you, James.
Oh, certainly, Mal. I always enjoy the show. This is great subject.
Great. And thank you to Juliette. Juliette's Surrealdreaming. I just love that surname.
Thank you, Mal, for having me here. And Art. Real pleasure. And
thank you also to Art Blue. Thank you, Art, if you can hear me.
I can hear you now again.
Yay!
Okay.
Well,
and I see you want to get rid of us, so it's okay.
We run out of steam, especially when you dropped out. Sorry.
Yeah, you have been on Steam. Oh, yeah, Steam is something great, yeah. And I'm in such a world of Steam even. Yeah, yes, I created an avatar who points out to the Open Simulator universe. It is in a game called of Nor, not Gate of Nor. That was my interpretation. It's called oh shit! Yeah, I've forgotten. Of Nor, something of Nor.
Okay. Is it a Steam environment?
Yes. One moment. I have it. Yeah, Gate of Nor. That was my contribution to. It's a long time here. It's not long, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it's called. Oh God. sorry. Gate of Nor.
Paraphrase the song. It's like
too many
worlds. Too many worlds.
Inventory. It's all about the inventory.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Never. It's Still Alive Studios. .com and okay.
Oh well. Okay, well we'll dig it up and let people know. So
yes.
Thank you very much, Art. Wonderful to have you here. So thank you to everybody, and I'm going to sign out as usual by wishing you all a very good morning, or a very good evening, or a very good afternoon. Whoops, wrong way around, or indeed a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And we will return same time, same place next week. Bye for now.